Yep, there we go. We're
All right, that was dumb on my part. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Escape Reality Star
sorry
Wars
about
Talk.
the technical difficulties.
I'm your host, Caleb.
Hi, I'm Seth. I talk Star Wars with this man when we figure out how to get the mics to work.
Yeah, we talk when we can. You know, when the mic says we can. The mic didn't want us to talk yet, but now we can talk.
Yes.
Speaking of, today we're talking about Star Wars Hunters: Battle for the Arena.
Yes.
And whew, that was a book,
Mm-hmm.
a good book.
And
I
indeed
think
it was.
Yeah. We're gonna go ahead and go into spoiler territories. We're gonna just jump right into
Yeah.
today's discussion.
There
Spoiler warning.
wasn't much news-wise.
Yeah. Nothing major, so we're just jumping right into it. So as you can see, we got Star Wars Hunters on the table.
Yeah. Welcome to Vespara,
Yeah.
a place that's so far out of the way that nobody cares.
So I got a question for you off the bat.
Okay.
Jedi.
Oh, J3DAI?
J3DI.
Yeah.
No way. Not Jedi. Jedi.
Sorry.
Thoughts on Jedi. So premise here of the book is we follow our main character Reeve as she joins up with the Hunters group, which is basically WWE with a Coliseum aspect to it.
Yeah.
And it's because so this is a tie-in novel to the video game Hunters, which is not out yet in the U.S. They have a somewhat public beta going on, but it's not in the U.S. It's in other countries. And they are basically, giving the game a chance to fix the bugs. So what are your thoughts on? So Reeve is basically her thing is she has the Force.
Yes.
And we initially meet Reeve in the most awesome way ever of her auditioning for this job.
Yeah.
She just busts this man's door open with the Force and is like, "Hey, I want a job."
And he's like, "Did you just fucking rip my door off its hinges? You're gonna have to pay for that."
Yeah, poor Dragus here, who is basically a promoter.
Yeah.
That's essentially his job. He's the promoter, because the arena is run by Bellotta the Hutt.
Yes.
Dragus is a promoter who was an ex-hunter, and he's the public face.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy that's the announcer, and it's basically like, "Let's get ready to rumble," and then we jump in.
Yes.
That's his role.
That's his job.
So of course, Reeve is hoping that through this she can get a job, and he's like, "I can talk to the boss, but I can't guarantee anything."
Yeah.
Which is kind of a lie because he basically gets her the job anyways.
Yeah.
He's like, "I didn't talk to her yet, but you have the job."
What? Don't worry about it.
So obviously they come up with her persona, and they're like, "Well, as a Force user, a really cool persona would be like this evil Sith Lord." And basically, Reeve is the heel, to put it in wrestling terms. Reeve is made into the heel. And with this aspect, they obviously have to have somebody that Reeve competes with.
Yes.
Because you can't have a Force user on one team on one side. That's kind of.
Yeah.
And so they're like, "Well, we programmed a droid because we got this because Dizzy is a droid programmer and engineer."
Then who the hell is Sprocket?
Oh, sorry, Sprocket. You're right, Sprocket, because there's Sprocket, then Dizzy, who also can do that stuff. But Sprocket's the one that makes Jedi. You're right. Sprocket makes Jedi.
Dizzy's the one with
Dizzy's,
the droideka.
Yeah, Dizzy's the one with the droideka that uses it as like a motorcycle, essentially.
Yeah.
Like drives and operates the droideka because they're small enough that they can just fit inside it. We're getting into J3, because they were listening in the car with me as I was finishing the book. Yeah.
Oh boy.
And so they got to hear a little bit of J3's stuff, and so Jedi, as they are known.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure masculine terms though for Jedi. I'm pretty sure. They don't say. I know there's one that they specify. One of the announcer droids they specify, oh no, that's a she her, like that's how they, because
Yeah.
not all droids define themselves by binary standards of that type. Because droids, they don't exactly have the parts.
I was about to say droids don't fuck, but that's not exactly true.
But so Sprocket designs Jedi to be the
Yeah.
good guy to Reeve's heel. I am curious on your thoughts of Jedi, because Jedi is a complicated character for sure, because they staunchly believe that they are a Force user, and this is because of the programming. Because they're like, I'm a Jedi Knight, and this like bugs Reeve. Your thoughts, because we know your thoughts on Jedi and we know your thoughts on droids. So the combination of this is
I should fucking hate this guy.
Like the combination of this is like a sandwich that like this is peanut.
He's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, because I wrote in our Discord, I'm like, Jedi is probably either your favorite character or least favorite.
Hate this guy or you're gonna love him, and I'm like, it's entertaining, is what he is.
I love him because he's so innocent about it.
Yeah,
like he's not.
It's not his fault that he doesn't. I'm like, a long time ago, I met a droid who spoke a lot about the Force. Shame what happened to his friends.
I mean, on top of that, though, Jedi means well most of the time when he's like
not like hostile. He's not.
Honestly, ironically, Reeve is hostile, but it's more of a antisocial hostile.
Yeah, she's like, I don't want to fucking talk to anyone right now.
And like, it makes sense. I guess there's a good delay there because we're getting delay on the comments.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I don't hate him.
It was interesting.
Yeah.
I like all of the hunters. They all bring something.
Of the hunters are amazing.
Like they all bring something interesting with their backstories for the ones that we learn about, anyways.
Yeah.
Like we learn about Sentinel.
I
think Sentinels is the most intriguing in the whole ex-Imperial, but also like we don't know if he still believes in any of their causes, because like the way that not Amara, but the I forget her name now.
Is it Jaina?
No.
That's a different.
Hold on, I'll pull it up. I'll pull up our list of hunters. But there's a hunter that's a ex-rebel.
Yeah.
And so we have an ex-rebel and an ex-Imperial, and so they don't exactly hate each other.
No.
But they definitely don't get along as much as they could. Same thing with Graz, the Wookiee.
Yes.
Graz definitely. I think Graz holds a heavier grudge, actually. Zaina is our rebel. That's right. I remembered as I was just before I even hit the character names. But Zaina is our other one, and Zaina is Zaina and Graz have an interesting relationship when it comes to Sentinel.
Yeah.
But Graz is upset because as a Wookiee, we know how things were with.
They were not great.
Yeah, with the Empire.
I get the sense that it's very much like a professional relationship.
Yeah, where they're like, okay, we can still work together, especially if we're on the same team. We have to. But if we were fighting each other, then hey, that's a great opportunity for us to get all that.
Apart from that, because we know that like they all willingly kind of eat together.
Yeah, because there's that scene where after one of the matches, they're all like sitting together, having food, and watching the next match.
Yeah. And to me, it's very much like, oh well, whatever happened in the past happened. I can't go back and fix it, and neither can you. So. And
they very much have they still care about each other, which is something that the end of the book makes very clear. They're like, yeah, we may have our differences, but we're still a family now.
Yeah. I remember like the page where it shows all of them. I was like,
yeah, so
if I didn't have any context as to why this is happening, I would be very fucking confused.
So the cool thing about this book is it has art in it.
Yes.
And so
I
like a lot of the art pieces that we see throughout the book. I'm curious. I want to know more about the Arental, the bounty hunter one.
Yeah, because
They just appear for a second because they don't fight in the same matches
Yeah.
that Reeve usually does.
like they show up and they're there throughout the book, but they're only in for like 3 chapters.
Yeah. And then of course we both know Amara because Amara's appeared in the comics already, and we know Amara's past, and Amara's been through it, to say the least. Especially with their run-in with Vader that one time.
Whoops.
But overall, I like I like the way combat is described in this book.
Yes.
I like, as a fan of SWTOR, I'm a fan of having Huttball become canon through Hunters. And we both talked about, we are more excited about playing the game after reading this book, which is why it's like, can this game just come out already? Like, I don't care if there's some bugs in it. A little, like, at this point, because it was supposed to already be out last year.
They're behind schedule.
Like, by a few months.
Yeah.
I'd say almost half a year at this point. And so, like, and it's free.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be on Switch and mobile for free. They'll probably have cosmetic stuff. Are there any particular characters that you would play when this game comes out? Like, from reading their descriptions of how they... Because the book very much makes it clear of, like, what their special abilities are and how they fight. Like, it's not going to be a case of, oh, I don't know what this character does after reading this book. We know how they fight and what special abilities they have. Like, Reeve gets her special ability at the end of the book, where they're like, oh, we should implement that into the fights. And that's very much probably going to be, like, their ultimate move or whatever.
Yeah. Maybe Graz at the moment. Although, that might be because I'm partial to Wookiees.
Yeah. Utuni is one that I want to play as. Because that's such a great gag character. Because Utuni, it takes we're a bunch of kids in a trench coat, literally, by having 2 Jawas in a trench coat, essentially. And then... because they're just stacked on each other, but they can also, like, do special moves separately. Like, when this game was announced, I was like, immediately like, I'm playing Utuni. But, like, on a more serious note, I probably would play as either Sentinel or Jedi. Because Sentinel has that heavy repeating gun.
Yeah.
Like, we see the big old... the E-Web.
Why is it so fucking big?
Because it's actually meant to be it's a gun turret.
Yeah, fucking.
Like, it's a turret gun, so it's supposed to be mounted. Because an
fucking
E-Webs are meant to be mounted.
He's just fucking carrying it with him.
Because I mean, we've seen an E-Web before in the films. It's the big mounted turret that the Empire uses a lot of the time. We see it in Empire Strikes Back. So yeah, he just carries that. And so,
you know what's weird? I forget. Speaking of Sentinel, they are described as the first person to go and, like, check up on Reeve when she's, like, for lack of a better term, been hospitalized. I'm like, well, that's kind of nice. And of course, all of them do this. I guess Sentinel was just the guy who was off work first.
So out of the characters that we have so far, we've got Reeve, Arental, whose Mando armor looks really cool.
That would explain a lot.
Yeah, they're supposed to be Mandalorian. Remember, they mentioned that in the book.
Yeah, they do. It's a quick throwaway one, so I kind of forgot. I was like, they're a bounty hunter, but that was about all I remember.
And then we got Utuni, Sentinel, Graz, Jedi, Slingshot, which is that's the one that's in the... Dizzy, I think, is just a background character, actually. Yeah. Amara Vex, who's also a bounty hunter. Because that is the funniest thing at the end of the book.
Yeah.
During the big fight.
It's like, all right, I got like 3 guys.
Yeah. Because during the last fight, they run... So, after I finish listing the characters, we're going to talk about more of the premise of this book. We got Zaina. And then that's We've gotten a few others,
Yeah.
because I know we've got Skora, the Rhodian, and then Sprocket is also playable. I think that's it that we're missing. So the main premise, though, follows Reeves' career.
Yep.
And for lack of a better term, terrible luck.
Yeah.
So Reeve has an interesting connection with the Force.
Yes.
And I immediately, based on like reading this book and listening to it, I immediately started to think of a different book that we talked about and how she communes with the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I thought of two books. I thought of Light of the Jedi and how Light of the Jedi talks about how different people commune with the Force.
Yes.
Because we have that awesome scene in Light of the Jedi where Avar feels everybody and can feel how they're all communicating with the Force. Because you got like people that see the Force as a song like Avar, you got people that see it as an ocean like Elzar and stuff like that. And then I also thought about Vision's Ronin. Because in the case of Reeve communes with the Force as a literal voice, as an embodiment, like a voice embodiment.
Yeah.
Which made me think of Ronin. Because while that's not how Ronin communicates to how Grimm, as he's nicknamed in the book, communicates with the Force, he does have that voice in his head throughout the entire book.
Yeah.
So I was just like, are we doing this again? Are we back to a voice that's just gonna harass this person? Turns out, no. This is just how Reeve communicates to the Force, and Reeve needed to learn to like believe in herself.
Yeah, as opposed to with Grimm, it's his daughter shit talking him the entire book.
And so, the reason that Reeve communicates this way, though, is because Reeve has had an awful childhood.
Like, everything kind of sucks for her.
Because Reeve was an orphan initially on the planet of Corellia.
Welcome to Corellia. And I was like, oh, you're in for it, aren't you?
And she was a courier, which gave me Fallout vibes too, because New Vegas.
I'm like, man, you're fucked again. Hope you manage your faction reputation well.
Well, it seems that she did well. She had a lot of points in one faction, but the other faction did not go well because of that.
Yeah.
Because she messed up somebody's delivery.
Yes.
And they tried to kick her ass for it.
Yeah.
And instead, she immediately let off a force wave that killed the people that were attacking her. Now, she is a child at the time of this attack. She's like 16 at most when this attack occurs.
Yeah.
And she didn't know she had the Force yet. Like, she knew something.
Like, she found out in the worst possible way.
Like, she knew she was special in some way, because people would comment, oh, you get the job done really well. And
you keep avoiding these, like, really dangerous situations.
And it's not until Nar Shutta that somebody mentions, oh, jokingly, oh, you must have the Force, ha ha ha.
The what? That's basically
it. But because of what happens in Corellia, she ends up running to Nar Shutta.
Yeah.
And she starts a punk rock band there. Gonk rock, which I need some gonk rock in my life. Can we get some of that? I will say I've listened to some of the music from the Hunters video game because I found it on YouTube because I was just like, I'm curious if there's a soundtrack out there already. There is, and there's some really good music. I like the menu music, and I like the some of the music that's there. Really get you pumped up.
Mm-hmm.
The menu music almost sounds like something from ESPN though. And so like it turns out that it was an Imperial officer that she fucked over.
Yeah.
But she doesn't know this. All she knows is some hooded figure keeps coming after her after this. And she's not sure if it's in her head or not most of the time.
Yeah.
She ends up running away from the Gonk Rock group because of this, because she's worried that
Yes.
she'll endanger them. Because turns out, whenever she gets upset, she just gets ready to do another one of those force waves.
Yep.
And Gunk Rock is one of her ways that she was able to, like, let all that anger out in a healthy manner. Rather than, exploding. Literally, essentially. And so she leaves her band high and dry.
Yeah. Like, they're not mad at her.
And, yeah, we learn later that they're not mad at her.
But it's like, why did you run?
Why are you running?
Very.
It's very much that.
Yeah. They're like, we're not bad. Why did you leave? That's what we want to know.
Because eventually she, after becoming after a couple games in the arena as a hunter, she goes out to go check out this cantina.
Yeah.
Like, she's kind of just walking around, and she's like, oh, I hear some gunk rock nearby. I guess I'll check this place out. And then, of course, she runs into Zaina, Graz, and Amara.
Yeah, who are there, and they're like, oh,
and it's not for the gunk rock. They're just like, yeah, we like to go to this cantina because it's a cool place to go hang out.
Yep.
And that's where they find out her secret, that she was part of a gunk rock band. Another heavy important thing is after she goes through the initial training and eventually is made a hunter, every hunter gets a trainer, which is basically their makeup artist and takes care of them and makes sure they're ready. It's essentially their manager.
Yeah. It's if your manager was also like your corner man.
Yeah. Almost a coach. Like if going back into like WWE and boxing terms, this is like your coach.
Yeah.
They make sure you're ready and prepped, and they have there's a very interesting thing that only hunters have access to because Belada discovers it.
Yes.
And it's this wrap.
Yes.
That heals them, but also like lessens the damage on like whenever something happens, because they're like, oh, we're giving you actual weapons, so we have to make sure like you don't die out there.
You don't fucking die. So this'll hurt a lot, but it won't kill you. You should be fine.
So it's basically like a Bacta wrap. I forget what it's actually called now, but like
I think it's just called like med wrap or something.
Yeah. And so like it's essentially a way to just ensure the hunters don't die.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of reference to like, God, I wish this existed outside of the ring. Cuz like, oh boy, because we learn about some stuff. We learn that there's an underground fighting ring and all that stuff, and it's like, damn, this is all really cool. I'm looking for what it's called, but it's like you would think people would be trying harder to get a technology like this, because that's really cool and useful outside of the ring. I can't find it.
So,
but yeah.
Belada Hut owns this place.
Yeah, along with some other like special stuff, because Belada's been like kind of relic hunting.
Yeah. When Belada isn't here on Vesparo watching like the matches and seeing out and kind of helping run and give the official final say, she's out looking for relics and stuff, because that's what Belada likes to do.
Yeah. Reminds me of another hut that's in the comics that we'll get to when we get to the 2015 Star Wars run. There's a hut that's very similar that collects a lot of Jedi and Sith artifacts.
Yeah.
Belada doesn't just focus on that. Belada's like any cool weaponry and stuff like that, any cool armor and gear. And that's how Reeve gets her costume as well as her lightsaber, because Belada's like, here's a lightsaber from me. You're not allowed to use it outside of the arena, though, but there you go.
But it's yours.
And so Reeve gets a trainer named Rothwell.
Yes.
Who is very, like, efficient and useful.
Yeah.
We learn later, though, because we're going to hit the big spoiler now. Once again, Big spoiler warning.
Big warning, big spoiler.
Rothwell is the bad guy.
Yes, he is.
Rothwell is the Imperial officer that was supposed to have that shipment.
Yeah.
And it was medical supplies.
Yeah.
For his troops.
I'm like, I get why you'd be mad. You didn't have to take it this far, though.
Rothwell made it personal.
Like, so what happened, as I understand, right, is Fair's supplier went and intercepted a shipment and gave it to Reeve and was like, here, deliver this to, like, the rebels, all right? And Reeve, not knowing that this shipment had been stolen,
just did that.
Just did her job.
Yep.
And so this guy is mad at Reeve for doing her job.
And she even
making his guys look bad.
And in the final fight, she even brings it up. She's like, I was a kid, you idiot. Like, you were in the wrong morally. You had your adult men attack a child.
The worst bit, it's not even that, right?
Yeah.
It's when he goes to look for her on Corellia, and they're like, okay, he's like, go find me this orphan girl. And his men go, which orphanage? And he goes, fuck it.
Just take all
of them out here.
Yeah.
I'm like...
Which is very Imperial.
Jeez, okay, yeah, sure.
It's very Imperial.
I hope those kids are okay.
Probably not.
Probably not.
They probably made another one of their little kids dying mix CDs that they like in Andor.
It's like,
I mean, I wouldn't put it past Rothwell.
I wouldn't.
Because
considering how far this man goes.
So he took this very personally to the point of, like, he recognized her and was the one who... Because Bellata put out before announcing Reeve as...
Come see a real live Sith Lord.
Yeah, Bellata makes an advertisement that she already posts to the HoloNet before they tell Reeve that, oh yeah, by the way, you got the job.
Yeah, like, Dragus... Dragus is a dick, but he's very fun about it.
I kind of wish Dragus was playable in Hunters, because I would play as him.
They're going to add him. I know they are.
He's gonna be a later addition. You're probably gonna have to pay like a little bit to get him, probably, or he's gonna be like on a battle pass system or something.
Something like that. But when they go and they don't exactly tell her. They spend like a good 10 minutes just trolling her because they can. And eventually she's like, what's so goddamn funny? And they're like,
oh, you already got the job.
You already have the job. You're not in trouble. We just want to tell you.
Because she's off the schedule for training.
Yeah.
And she points it out on her data pad. She's like, why am I not on the schedule? I've been on the schedule every week since I've been here. And now I'm off the schedule. And it turns out, oh, that's because you're no longer training because you are a hunter now. Yeah. That schedule is for people who aren't hunters.
What? Yeah, you're a hunter. Oh.
And you start today.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to be late.
First match, go.
What?
But yeah, Rothwell takes this so personally, though, that he goes out of his way to fuck her with her. Like he turns off the AC, which also fucks him over, by the way. Yeah. He turns off the AC in her, like, prep pod, because all the hunters have their own little prep pod. Think of it like backstage having your own little, like, not quite a trailer, but like having like a little mirror and prep area. And so that's kind of what all the hunters have, is their own little prep area where their trainer will prep them and put on their makeup and put the wrap on them and everything. And so he turned off the AC on one of these matches just to fuck with her.
He's like...
Which fucks him over too.
Yeah.
And then another one that he does is he messes with the lightsaber so it starts acting funny during a match. And then the last straw is when he appears in the audience in the hooded form to scare her.
Yeah. And to the point, like,
because she doesn't know what the hooded figure looks like, and you're about to say,
because Reeve is fucking having a time of it with all of this going on. She's just like, I don't know if any of this is real. Are the, like,
and she's
other hunters just
and she's avoided telling the other hunters and the management like her backstory.
Yeah.
So they have no idea why because she goes crazy when she sees him in the audience. She jumps into the crowd, and then has like we get a major flashback of like everything, and we now know what her history of what happened. Like she has serious PTSD over this.
Yeah. Like she jumps into the crowd and starts chasing after this guy. And the rest of the hunters are like,
why are you attacking the crowd?
What the fuck are you doing? We're in the middle of a game right now.
Which she has already not been having a great time with the games, because every time she plays a game, she's fighting Jedi.
Yeah.
And Jedi's distracting her, keeping her from the objectives of that particular game, because there's different game modes. There's capture
the
point.
flag.
Yeah, well, I would say it's like capture point more than capture the flag. And then there's the one.
It's capture the flag and delivery.
Yeah,
is
delivery.
What I might as well fucking call it.
Which immediately brought up Overwatch tones on the delivery one, because that's one that's in Overwatch as well, where you just got to stay with the package until it arrives. And she keeps getting distracted by Jedi, who's purposely doing this because it's a legitimate strategy in those type of games to distract one player, keep them away from the objective, so that way the other players get knocked out. It's a legitimate strategy.
And Reeve falls for it pretty bad.
Because Reeve is just not used to teamwork.
Yeah.
Which is something Dragus is like, all right, we're getting up early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning, before the sun's even out, and we're going to go every morning for a while, get you prepped and used to working as a team.
Yep.
And Reeve's like, I hate these morning stuff, because she's... and that's with the mixture of Rothwell fucking with her.
Yes. And so...
Thoughts of Rothwell as a villain, by the way.
God. This fucking guy.
I think he's a great villain.
He is. I'm like we were talking about it in the car, and like...
Oh, yeah. So one of the things I brought up is retroact. So Rothwell pretends he has, like, because he's the first time he meets her, she's like, hey, you mind if I turn on some music so I can get in the mood?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, turn on whatever you want. She turns on some gonk rock, and he's like, oh, I never heard this type of music before. It's not really my style, but okay. And it's like, and so the next day he brings her some music, and he's like, hey, I got some music for you. I just looked up whatever gonk rock music was out there.
Yeah.
And one of them is her band, which retroactively makes this very much Rothwell just fucking with her.
Yeah.
It's like, I know who you are, but I'm not going to say why. It's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Because, like, at the first time you think, oh, this is a nice moment of him trying to, like, connect to her. And then retroactively you're like, this fucker.
This asshole. I was thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, right. It's gonna be her trainer. Yeah, I was fucking right.
Yeah, you were jokingly like, oh, it's gonna be her trainer.
I'm gonna wait for Rothwell to take off a fucking Mission Impossible mask and be like, it was me.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I didn't really figure it out until the underground fighting ring section. Because, so what happens after the big... There's one more time that he shows up.
Yeah.
As his hooded form in the arena. And this time, everybody sees him.
Yeah. Like, Reeve, in the middle of the match, just grabs her teammate and is like...
Yeah, her
and
it's Zaina that she pulls first.
Is there a guy right there?
Yeah, because they're in the... So... Let me kind of describe the situation first, because so in all of their matches they have like fake locations, because they've built these arenas to match like actual battle scenarios. So they have like a scene that's on Tatooine. They've got a scene that's a battle for Endor situation. They've got, Hoth. So that they have all these environments so that way they can make really cool settings for fights. And this is the Endor setting, and she's like, they're in the middle of the woods, and she's like, I don't know if I actually see that. And Zane's like, wait a minute, what? I see that too. Like, just a hooded figure in the arena. They're like, how'd they get in here?
Yeah.
And then they get Amara to, like, confirm as well. And Amara's like, yeah, I see that too. And then Graz shows up. Graz is like,
what the fuck are you all doing? And they're like, hey, Graz, you see this guy, right? And Graz is like, who the fuck is that?
And then that's when they run off,
Like-
and they all start giving chase and leave the arena. Meanwhile, Sentinel and his team are like, "What the fuck? Where is everybody? Why'd they leave?"
What? Like
Because this was a delivery
yeah,
match.
and it's like we win, I guess.
Because they were waiting, and they were like, well, "Why didn't they show up to the checkpoint? Where are they?"
Yeah.
And so
they go.
and so there's this big hubbubaloo.
Yeah, and then
And Reeve is eventually like, "If you guys won't believe me, I'm just gonna go." And Reeve leaves.
Yep.
And then we get throughout the book, we've been getting little sections of like interludes between chapters. I would say is the best wording, because they're technically part of the chapter, but they're not. They're kind of their own little section.
And we
And
see things from Rothwell's perspective.
yeah, we see things from Rothwell's perspective without revealing it's Rothwell. It's supposed to be like, who's the mysterious figure that's keeping an eye on Reeve? Which they try to red herring that it's the former band member who Reeve sees when they go to the cantina, and it turns out no, it's not that guy. And then Rothwell is waiting outside the arena, and that's when I figured it out, because we get an interlude of the person waiting for, going like, everything is going to plan, like very evil, like maniacal, rubbing their hands together, kind of shit.
Yeah.
And then we immediately go into the next chapter where Reeve runs into Rothwell, who's like, hey, who earlier in a previous chapter was like, hey, if you ever want to leave, I got a job for you.
Yep.
And it turns out it's an underground fighting pit.
Yes.
That it turns out Rothwell owns and runs.
Yep.
And it turns out this was a trap.
Yep. It's like, I got you now.
And also, she couldn't bring her lightsaber because it belongs to Bellotta.
It belongs to Bellotta, and it stays in the arena.
Which also technically Reeve broke the non-compete clause essentially of her job description, because there's essentially a non-compete clause where they're like, you can't fight in any other arenas.
Yeah.
Official or otherwise.
It's like, well,
and so joining Fight Club is essentially breaking that rule.
Yeah. I don't think Bellotta's gonna care too much after this.
Yeah, and it seems Bellotta doesn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other hunters figure out her location, and they come to help, thanks to Jedi tracking her.
the fucking
and Jedi's like, yeah, I sensed you through the Force, because once again, Jedi thinks he's an actual Jedi.
Yeah. And I'm like, sure, man.
Whatever makes you feel better. It's not his fault.
Yeah.
This Sprocket did something to his wiring when they designed him. And so eventually Reeve reveals Rothwell's behind a bunch of shit, and he's gonna severely fuck up the arena as well.
Yes.
So we need to get to him. And we get this really cool last battle sort of deal.
Yep.
And they eventually get Rothwell.
It is the battle for the arena.
Yeah, as the title suggests. And Reeve does this awesome final move to stop a bomb from going off. Well, to prevent people from dying, rather. The bomb goes off, but it prevents people from dying.
Rothwell's like, I have a thermal detonator. You guys are going to let me leave.
And then everybody starts fighting over who's going to be the one to sacrifice themselves. And Reeve's like, look, I started this. I should end this.
Yep.
Because eventually Reeve because throughout the book, the reason that Reeve has this PTSD is she blames herself. And that she thinks that she hurts people, anybody that she stays with for too long. She finally learns at the end of this book, she's like, no, that's not my fault.
Yep.
I was a child. Rothwell was the adult, and so were a lot of these people that I hurt. Yep. This isn't on me. I just need to move forward and need to learn to trust myself and my force powers.
Yeah.
And that's when the voice in her head starts to be nicer.
Yep.
And also it helps that, the hunters make it clear that they're family.
Yes. Because at the orphanage, it
wasn't that way.
It wasn't. They were just like, Reeve, please stop doing all of the deliveries for, gangsters and stuff here on Corellia.
Mm-hmm.
And Reeve was just like, no. And they were like, damn it.
Yeah.
We don't care. We give up.
Oh, man.
You're never going to get adopted.
But yeah, at the end of the book, everything turns out all right. They start, repatching the arena, and they prepare for a new type of game mode that Vlad has come up with, which is essentially fighting a Rancor.
Yeah. Welcome to multiplayer boss fights.
Oh man, I want to play this game so bad now.
I do too.
Man, we went through this real quick. Only 40 minutes in.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
To be fair, this is a junior novel. We skipped some minor details, like there's a lot of hutball scenes, and because Vespara is a really interesting setting because it not only has the arena, but it has a lot of other games and events going on. Like they got the cantina where a lot of music and appreciation for that type of stuff is, and then you've got the hutball arena and pod racing. There's a pod racing arena there where Sprocket and Dizzy race, I think, is what they mentioned, and because Sprocket likes their machinery and all that, and I really like the setting for Vespara.
Yeah,
and I kind of hope that they're hinting at other like future games and stuff, because I would like another pod racing game. It's been a minute since we had a good pod racing video game.
Oh, important thing to note, I did not know when this took place.
Okay, so
when it takes place is
it's after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah, around between episodes.
I think it's 9. I want to say it's 9 ABY. I want to say it's close to like Mandalorian.
Yeah, I was like, because they mentioned like the New Republic's around, but they don't come out here because it's so far and out of the way.
Well, yeah, and they mentioned that Zaina is now part of the New Republic, and now that since she was part of the rebellion, she works as part of the New Republic military as well on the side.
Yeah,
because that's the thing. All of these hunters have side jobs.
Yeah,
as far as we know, like we don't know everybody's side job, but we know that like while this is their main income because you make a lot as a hunter. Yes. They all are like, well, we're still going to do our other thing and live our lives outside of here.
Apart from Graz and Sentinel, who aren't described as like having,
and Jedi obviously, because Jedi's a droid that
those
doesn't need to have a job.
Yeah,
probably could get one if they wanted, but like
doesn't really need it.
Yeah. Happy being a Jedi with no form of income, which is very Jedi of him.
Since I'm like, what living expenses does a droid incur?
Yeah. So it says somewhere between 5 and 34 ABY on Wikipedia. I think it's closer to the 5 than it is, because it sounds like the Empire is very recently taken down.
Yeah.
And we know that, like, the Battle of Jakku's happened, because there's some, like, references of that, which is technically the end of the war. The true end of the war, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, we haven't had a pod racing video game in a while. I think the last one was Racer's Revenge on PS2. Oh boy! To tell you how far back that was. Let me see exactly what it says on. 2002 is the last time we had a pod racing game. So a canon pod racing game would be cool.
Yeah.
Because I like the episode 1 racer, although I like Racer's Revenge more because you can actually knock your opponents out entirely from the race, like in regular pod racing. Because, you can knock the pods out. And you get paid for more pods that you destroy. So that way you can use that to upgrade your pod. I could see a really cool multiplayer pod racing game. Of course, we're getting so they describe hutball. We already know Hunters is going to include a hutball mode, and we now know why, because it's actually Reeve's idea. Because it's something that Reeve brings up, and then Dragus is like, "Oh yeah, we should probably do something like that. That'd be a great idea," and brings it up to Balad, and Balad is like, "Oh hell yeah!" Because in between like matches, like, so the hutball people like the Hunters, and the Hunters like the hutball people, but they don't like the pod racers.
Yes, that would be pretty accurate about how this all works.
Like everybody has their own little clique essentially, and certain cliques get along with each other, and some don't.
Yeah.
And so, it's nice seeing those type of scenes and getting a little bit of like in between the matches. And I honestly, I hope we get more books like this for hunters, because with the game being the way it is, being an Overwatch type game, it's not gonna be a story driven game. It's just pure multiplayer. I hope, like Overwatch and Team Fortress and games of that nature, I hope we get like more lore behind the characters. Because I could see a really cool book from a few of these characters already. I could imagine a good Sentinel book. I could see a good Zayna book. And then minor characters. I'd like a Artavan one. Get our Mando bounty hunter. Maybe get his thoughts on what's going on with the Mandalorian show currently, and his culture.
They're just over there. He's like, I don't deal with that.
Because it is his culture, so I'm.
I don't want to deal with it.
Because it is part of his culture, so I'm curious, like how he would be reacting, especially with where we're at in season 3, and kind of the rise of Mandalorians again. Because most of the Mandalorians have been in hiding.
Yeah.
Because of what happened on the night of, the purge, essentially, that they had.
Yeah.
Night of 1,000 Tears, I think is what, if I remember, is the name.
Yep.
So.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting things about this book, and all I can say is it's good.
Yeah.
I'd personally give it an 8. Maybe even an 8.5. Because I think it did what it's supposed to.
Yeah.
It did. It invested me in the characters, and it also made me want to play the game, which is what a tie-in novel should do. Like, the tie-in novel should make me want more, and that's what this book did. I like the author, and I hope they get more work. Because Mark definitely knocked this out of the park.
Yes. Shout out to the artists too. They did an amazing
Which
job.
Mark gave a shout out to them as well. And
Yeah.
because I read the acknowledgments on this one, and a lot of people put in some heavy work on this. Yeah. Anything? I guess at this point we can kind of just chat about whatever.
Yeah.
Have you been reading or playing anything interesting lately, or watching anything?
God, trying to finish up Elden Ring one more time, and I think like after
before the DLC comes out.
There's a DLC. I forgot about that.
Yeah, DLC's coming.
God, so the thing about From Software and their bosses, they always save the fucking hard one for the DLC. And I'm worried. Because it took a long time to beat Millennia, and I'm concerned if they've got something harder than that.
So you better have your New Game Plus character ready.
I haven't started a New Game Plus. Each time I've wanted to play it again, I've gone through and started.
Are you waiting for New Game Plus after DLC then? Or are you... I've heard actually it's best to do that, because I've heard for at least their games that, like, if you do a New Game Plus character, it's harder, even harder.
Yeah.
Even with the fact that New Game Plus, technically, it should be a little bit easier because you have all your shit, but...
You have the same...
Like, in terms of, like, abilities and stuff.
Yeah, I got hit with this with Bloodborne, because if you do the true final boss for that one, it automatically starts you a New Game Plus.
Mm-hmm.
I knew this ahead of time, but I was like, well, I don't have the DLC for what I've bought, so I'll just go on ahead and do it. Well, they rebalanced the game to where, yes, you have all your equipment and gear. Guess what? The enemies now have more health in order to make up for that.
So, they're going to have that ready probably then, for sure.
Yeah.
For this one.
So, I'm going to wait before doing that.
Mm-hmm. Beat the DLC then. Yeah. New Game Plus it. I saw D&D movie this past week. I like it. Review should be out Monday. And then I've just been seeing more movies.
Yeah.
Like, the week before I saw John Wick 4. And then I saw Scream, of course. And Shazam 2. Because I got my AMC back, so I've just been making use of that. And And then been doing my usual Baldur's Gate run.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a private one for myself that's more of a canon run.
Yeah.
With the canon party members that you technically should have, with the canon character and his name being canon.
Yep.
The one thing I'm doing on that is I'm going to every section of the map because I've never cleared out the entire map before. That's been interesting. I'm doing it in a way, though, where I'm not starting in Chapter 2 yet until I've cleared out everything that I can in Chapter 1.
Oh, man.
Which means I can't go to... I have to avoid going to Neshkel as much as possible.
I hear they have an iron shortage.
Yeah. Which, with Khalid and Jaheira going, hey, we need to go there. But at least, unlike Montalban and the other character, the evil characters that you can get in your party.
Yeah.
At least Khalid and Jaheira stay in your party, and there's no timer associated with them going to Nashkel.
Yeah.
Whereas Montalban and the other character, they have a timer where they're like, hey, if you don't take us there in a certain amount of time, we leave the party.
We'll just fucking go on our own.
Yeah. Like, we leave the party and you can't get us back in.
Oh, God.
You soft lock us out.
I remember, because we played through...
We played a little bit. We got to chapter 3. I think we almost made it to chapter 4.
Yeah. And I remember...
And I told you about certain characters where I'm like, hey, we got to do this.
You're like, hey, I need you to start making decisions for this. Because sometimes we're just not going to have things work.
And on top of that, there's also certain characters that... Like, certain party members have timers to their side quest.
Yeah.
Like Minsk, for example. You need to decide if you're going to go say... If you want to... Don't talk to him until you know for sure you're going to go do the Denahir side quest.
Yes.
Because as soon as you talk to him, that side quest has started, whether or not you have him, like, even if you have him join the party for a second and you have him leave your party, that timer's still going. And you have, like, a certain amount of in-game days to take him to where Denahir is and have her join. Yeah. And then you have to decide on party members at that point, because you can only fit 6 total party members.
Yes.
Which in a multiplayer session, that leaves us only with 4 slots.
Yeah.
When it's 2 of us. Whereas at least when it's just a single player, that leaves 5 slots. But that also makes things difficult because certain party members require having both party members.
Mm-hmm.
Because certain people come in 2s.
Yes.
Like Khalid and Jaheira come in 2. Minsk and Denahir come in 2. Jar and Montaran come in 2. And so if you kick one of them out, you've kicked both of them out.
Yeah. God. Like, can we talk about how I don't do this intentionally, but I'm very good at just kind of figuring out, like, I would rather you not be in my party.
Yeah. And so...
Because the first time it happened, it's immediately after our not dad is killed.
Yeah, after Gorion dies.
And the two evil party members come and walk up to us.
Spoilers for a game, by the way, that's like 20-ish, over like, it's 25 years old.
Yeah. And they're like, we would like to join your party. And I'm like, our dad just got killed 30 feet over there. No. Go away. And they're like, fine, you don't have to be a jerk about it.
I think that was Jar and Montaran, actually.
And you were like, so did you know? And I'm like, did I know what?
They were evil party members.
Oh.
I mean, but we took Imoen, but that's,
yeah.
I mean, that's because you kind of, everybody takes Imoen at first.
Yeah.
Hey, it's me, Imoen. I served a flaming fist. Some of the best quotes in that game, man. But yeah, and then of course you can go up to Gorion's body and pick up the note where you get that letter that's from that big important character from the D&D world, but you don't know that because it's just signed with E. But if you know D&D and Forgotten Realms setting, you know who E is. And in fact, you immediately run into him in the next section of the map if you're trying to go straight to Candlekeep, because in order to get to Candlekeep, you got to go east immediately and then north to get to Candlekeep, because each because the way that the map is built in Baldur's Gate, you have your like sections. So you've got your big section that you can walk around in, and then you either go northeast, south, or west, and depending on that, you can unlock a new section of the map to go explore.
Yep.
And so, in order to get to Candlekeep, you got to go east, north, and so, if you go directly east, you immediately run into the guy that made that letter, but you don't know it's that guy, and he's like, he's like this red, he wears this red wizard robe, and he's like talking about strangers and being careful, and you're like, kind of interesting that you're saying that talking to me. Aren't you a stranger talking? You shouldn't be doing that. And he's like, you make a good point. Very wise of you. Because it turns out he's guiding you without guiding you. He's trying to pull a Gandalf here, where he's like, I'm not going to tell you the answer, but I'm going to guide you to it. I guess spoiler warning for a game that's almost 30 years old. It's Elminster.
Yeah.
I mean, in case you couldn't figure it out. I think you didn't. I was trying to keep that a secret because you're like, who the fuck is this guy? But like, it's not like he hides it that well.
Yeah.
It's Elminster.
I'm just like I
don't and you don't really know like you.
I don't know everything.
Yeah, like you know some of the D&D lore, but you definitely
I don't know all of it.
But you've at least heard of Elminster because he's such a major wizard.
I should know. I know you're important. It's one of those things where it's like, I know you're important.
I don't know why. Especially since they haven't revealed who he is at that point in the game. You're like, I don't know who you are. And then, of course, there's Firebeard, who we run into a couple times, and we give him books.
Yeah.
And then he gives us one of the nicest gifts ever, which is the scroll case, which is so fucking useful. Because that saves so much room in your inventory. I am not kidding. One of the first quests you should do is go to Baragos and go get that book for Firebeard. Because he's just like, all right, thanks for the book. Here's a scroll case. The other thing I say you should do is even if you don't plan to keep her in your party, get Nira. If you're playing the Enhanced Edition, she's not in the original version. In the Enhanced Edition, which I think is the only one you can get anyways nowadays, you can only get the Enhanced Edition. I don't think you can get the original unless you have unless you find a physical copy somewhere.
Yeah.
But like all digital stores only sell the Enhanced Edition. Get Nira in your party because she gives you the gem bag, which lets you just put all of your gemstones in there, and you will get a lot of them. And then
you will get an exorbitant amount of gemstones.
So get that bag. And then the only other bag after that is a potion bag, which is also useful because you get a lot of potions in this game.
Yep.
Potions, gems, scrolls, and arrows.
Yeah, you will
never have an arrow issue.
Never, ever.
Your ammunition for arrows will always exist. So definitely, no matter what class, I'd say at least take 1 point of proficiency in arrow and like some sort of bow.
Yeah.
Short bow, long bow, it doesn't matter. Composite, any of them.
Any of them will do.
Because you will not run out of arrows.
No.
Bolts and bullets, on the other hand, are a little harder to find.
Yep.
So slings and crossbows are a little harder to work with in terms of ammunition, because you'll have to buy those a lot more often. So.
God.
We need to play more of that.
Yeah, we do. It's been a while.
Yeah. It's because we've been watching... I've been getting you through the Scream franchise.
Yes.
And so that's been fun.
Like, I'm also very rude to a lot of people when we play that game.
Which is funny because your character started off as the lawful good character, and I was the chaotic good, and then I fucked the reputation, and that messed with your class.
Yes.
Because you were a ranger.
Yes.
And in 2nd edition, rangers, when they take their class, very similar to like paladins and all that, take an oath.
Yep.
And I fucked your oath and made you a fallen ranger, which fucks with your with some of your abilities.
Yes.
I think it's your spell casting side of being a ranger that it fucks with. And unfortunately, we can't undo you being a fallen ranger without doing one of two options, and without doing one of two options, and one of those options we can't do until we get to Baldur's Gate 2.
Yeah.
The other option is fuck with the save edit files and undo it that way.
Yeah.
The correct gameplay way, though, you can't do it until Baldur's Gate 2.
Narratively, this works out for us as well.
Yeah.
Because the way that I have been playing the character is very much like just...
I don't trust you, back off.
I don't trust you. Why did you fucking walk up to me in the middle of the street and be like, I'll give you $50 if you go kill this woman? And I'm like, I'm not doing that.
So, to be fair... Oh, okay. I was thinking of Garrett and Silk for a second, which is not that. That is a, hey, this woman wants protection. And then it turns out, oh no, she's actually in the wrong.
Yep.
And then Garrett's like, so I got nothing better to do. Can I join your party? No. We don't need the bard.
Like, I remember that, and I was like, we have time for this. Sure, what do you want? And, like, so of course, we go and we follow Silk for a little bit, and then these guys...
Well, it's not even for a little bit. We just go right up to her, and, like, moments later, we run into the people that she owes money to because she stole from them. And then we're like, wait, you've got magic. You are the bad guy here, Miss Silk. And then we get into a fight with her instead.
Yeah, and it's like... it's very funny because she's like, fine then, I'll kill all of you. And I'm like...
Then why'd you even hire us?
Yeah, then why did you hire us if you could have just done this on your own?
All right, well, we've hit the hour mark. We were kind of just stretching time out. Plus, usually we ramble more, so this was our chance to ramble a bit. So next week
is...
we're talking about Bad Batch.
Bad Batch. Oh, boy.
And we've got a guest.
We do.
Yes. It is one of my mutuals, Lethal Youngling, and she loves the Bad Batch and our boys. Yeah. We'll get into it next week.
Here is my statement for the Bad Batch. Hunter's a good dad.
And we'll leave it there because we're not going to spoil any of the rest of our thoughts until next week. But thank you all for watching.
Yeah.
Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you're watching on YouTube. That's youtube.com/EscapeRealityFilms. Be sure to follow or subscribe if you're watching on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/EscapeRealityFilms. And if you really want to show us some extra support, we have a Patreon, which is patreon.com/EscapeRealityFilms. We want to shout out our Twitch subscriber, Matt, and our Patreon supporter, Jennifer Brantley. You two make everything that we do worth it.
Yeah, you do.
And another way that you can become a part of the community is we do have a Discord channel where we get to hang out and stuff. It's
become a little bit more active.
Yep, and we're going to continue trying to make that happen. We've been having South Park nights whenever new episodes air, although we had to skip last night or Thursday night.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. A friend of ours was streaming, and so the people that normally watch with us, they were playing with him and the video game that they were playing. Yeah. So we skipped the finale for now, but we rain checked and we're like, we're gonna watch this together because we watch as a family on our server. And so if you want to become part of that community, if you're watching on YouTube, the description box below has the link. If you're watching on Twitch, it's on the main page. The link's there. Also, shout out to the show Titans and Tabernacles, which is the D&D game that you are playing.
Yes.
And that is on twitch.tv / Steam _ dungeon with all caps for Steam.
Yes.
But I'm pretty sure Twitch isn't case sensitive.
Yeah. On a little update
on
for
Sundays at 5 to 7.
Yeah, Sundays
5 to 7 Central.
Yes.
So yeah.
They succeeded. They seem to have gotten involved in something a little bit more problematic than we initially assumed, but for now, everything is good. All they have to do, go to a coliseum, get one of the PC's friends back, give her their contract, and then things should be good for them, because we've taken away the contract paper So that should manage things for a little bit.
All right.
So
And that-
hopefully things will work out.
And that's kind of where you're leaving off for
Yeah.
now. Okay. Sounds like a good time. And then we also want to shout out to Mobcast Network,
Yes.
who have the we do Cult Movie Cantina, their podcasting group. You can find them at youtube.com/Mobcast Network or on any podcasting app. I am a co-host and producer on that, and we do Cult Movie Cantina, where we talk about cult movies and show them to somebody who hasn't seen them, along with having an adult beverage. This past episode that just aired, we talked about Megan.
Oh, yeah.
Talked about Mithrigan. Mithrigan. That's what we called it, Mithrigan. I mean, that's how it's branded.
Robot children.
And you can find out my thoughts on the podcast.
A serial killing droid, I see.
And
I've been down this route before.
Let's see. And then we also want to shout out to Gamers and Geeks, who rents out the space to Mobcast Network, who then gives us the studio space for free, because I help out with their stuff. Yeah. I guess it's not free because I'm doing labor for it, but yeah.
Well, they're also your friends. So.
Yeah, they're also my friends, yeah. And so Gamers and Geeks is our local gaming shop. If you're ever in Mobile, Alabama, they are on Howells Ferry and Moffett. And you can come hang out here. We got D&D, Pokemon cards, Magic cards, all that good stuff. They also have an arcade in the back for $10 for the day. You can play on their machines, and they're free play machines, so no coins necessary. Yep. And then inside the same building is Engage Gaming, who do like a video game rental thing, but in the shop, where you can play on a PS5, Xbox, PC, VR, and you pay an hourly fee to play on those machines. They provide the games even. You can get a decrease on that hourly fee, though, if you are a member with a monthly membership fee. All a bunch of good stuff.
Yep.
So I think I've covered everything.
You may have occasionally heard someone playing Guitar Hero.
Yeah, there was some Guitar Hero in the arcade, because where the studio is like behind the arcade. So, and they have Guitar Hero in the arcade, and so there's some music there. I don't think the mic was picking it up too much, but
I hope not.
I didn't see anything whenever we were quiet and the music was going, but
I think we should be good.
Yeah. And even then, it's low enough that we're not going to get DMCA'd for sure.
Yeah.
I think that's everything, though. I think I covered the bases.
Should be everything, yeah. I think we're all good.
All right, so then we'll see you guys next week to talk Bad Batch Season 2.
Yeah.
And I've spoken.
It was me.